This daf from Yerushalmi Shekalim, the article Oz edition where daf Vamarav, the second line, Halacha Gimel, Mishnah, and in the Vilna that's on Gimel and Beis, Halacha Gimel, the Mishnah. Chamisha Sarbo on the 15th day of Adar, Shulchanos Yoshim Medina. Instead of money changing tables in the Medina. Now, Medina is two pshatim here, only for shiming them down, and some say it's Yerushalayim. But the Rambam's sheet, of course, that all Yerushalayim is called Mikdash. And along those lines, there's another parish here throughout the cities of Eretz Yisrael besides Yerushalayim. And they would make change. They made Machtis HaShekel, for every Machtis HaShekel. So that was in the Medina. Which either means in Yerushalayim is completely, or throughout Yerushalayim, like the Rambam, or in the Beis HaMikdash proper. If you hold that Medina, first Yerushalayim. Mishiyasha Mikdash, once he started starting the Mikdash in order to do the exchanges, he started mashking. He started compelling people who did not bring their Machzis HaShekel to give the Machzis HaShekel. As we mashkin, who do we compel to give Machzis HaShekel? Levim, Yisraelim, Levites, Israelites, Gerim, converts, Vavodim, Shechem, and least slaves. Avlo Noshim are not women. Women are not required to give Machzis HaShekel. According to examine us to Ish Kofer Navshoksi below Isha. So Navsho includes women. And below Avodim and not slaves. And because we learned law, Zerusha from Isha. Below Ktanim, not minors. They don't give either. And even if they're maybe states oros, they're ready at 2 hairs. Nevertheless, as long as less than 20, they don't give Machzis HaShekel. There's a famous chum of you give an Eger that a boy under 20 years old should not be a chazan for Musaf, because the tefillos, besides being Knei Korbanos, also Avos Tiknum. So therefore, the regular person can be a chazan for regular tefillah. A person under 20 can be a chazan for a regular tefillah. But Musafir only corresponds to the Kor Musaf in the Beis HaMikdash. And Kor Musaf Beis HaMikdash, the only people that chilek in it were the people who gave the Machzis HaShekel. And we give a Machzis HaShekel, we were above 20. So therefore, a katan has no shaychus to Musaf, and therefore he should not be a shleich tzibur to motzi rabbi Musaf. We don't pass like Rabbi Kiva, but there is a famous sheet of Rabbi Kiva. However, any child whose father started setting aside Machzis HaShekel, it's a form of chinuch, I guess, or it's a form of schus for his child. So shuv eino posek. Once he starts doing it, then he has to continue doing that even afterwards. I see the Pnei Moshe says that not like the other Mefarshim. He says that a katan above 13 already brings the Machzis HaShekel, but the other Mefarshim say not that way. So I'm not sure why he's saying that. Okay. Any mashkin's crime they Dr. Shalom, we don't compel the client to give, even though they are required to give Machzis HaShekel, because the Dr. Shalom, which Gemara is going to explain, that because you do the avodah, you don't make them give money for the avodah, even though they're supposed to. Says more further, Mishnah further. According to the article, there's Mishnah Dalet. We just finished Mishnah Gimel, there's Mishnah Dalet. Oh, my Rebbe said, hey, Ben Buchri Biavne, Ben Buchri does Biavne, Shkol Kohen Shu Shekel Eino Chayte. Any Kohen who gives the Machzis HaShekel is not a sinner. So even though he's not required to give it, he's allowed to do it. So his opinion is that allowed to do it, not required to do it. Why you need a specialist to do it? Because I might have thought that if a Kohen gives a Machzis HaShekel, then he's going to be not give it to the tzibur properly. Well, first of all, let's make this clear. The Kohen is not required to give it, but he gives it. He's not a sinner. Why? Because I might think, well, it's not mechuyev to give it, and he gives it, so now the carbon tzibur is going to be brought from the funds of a yachid because it's not mechuyev to give. It's not, therefore it doesn't become money of a tzibur. So Kamash, well, no, we're not cheshish that. We're not cheshish not to give it over to the Beis HaMikdash Yafa. He gives it over Lev Shalom, and therefore it's not. It doesn't try to retain a chilek of the korban. An individual on the Kohen, he can't retain a chilek. Once the machzis shekel is a mitzvah to him to give it, it's no longer his. So therefore, it becomes a korban automatically. But I'm not saying Kohen, if he gives, it doesn't become, since he's not mechuyev to give. So therefore, it does become money of the tzibur automatically, and it's the korban korbanos going to be brought from the based on yichidim. No, it's not a problem. So the because again, it's going to give it to the tzibur yofa. It's going to give it properly. So Rabbi Yochanan said, no, look, no. Kohanim are required to be machzis a shekel. A kohen that doesn't bring it is a sinner. So therefore, you actually use mechuyim. The Kohanim, they darshan this pasuk in order to exempt themselves from the machzis shekel erroneously. It was not a good drasha. They darshan kol minchas kohen kolol tia lo seachel. It says that any mincha brought by a kohen has to be completely consumed by fire, can't be eaten. So if kohanim have a korban tzibur hova omer shtei lechem lechem panim shalanu, so then the omer and the shtei lechem and lechem panim, which are all supposed to be eaten by kohanim, the menachos are supposed to be eaten by kohanim. If they came from us, they'd be minchas kain, and minchas kain couldn't be eaten. So therefore, we can't give in order that these milk should be eaten by us. And as it says, so if shalanu hechen necholim, so therefore they wanted to pat themselves, but in fact that's not the case. Again, since they're mechuyev to give, so once they give, it's no longer their money, and therefore it's not as if it's a kohen's korban. It has to be kolil, has to be consumed by the fire. Not a problem. Okay, but so this direction they made was erroneous. Okay, says the Gemara. Chamisha Sor B'chulei. This is not the way the Vilna starts. The Vilna starts Ena Mashke V'Saktanim. But let's see. I'm not sure the article changes it because almost everybody learns like that's going Ktanim. I don't know if the article learned it. He also learns going Ktanim. So why would not say Mashke Ktanim? So Mark first, you can't do Mashke. Mashke takes compels them to give. But you can demand them. Command it of them. So how can you demand it of them? So it says, well, maybe stays to Sharos. But he brought 2 hairs, so then you can demand it of him. Even though he's not 20 years old, but you can demand of him. But he didn't bring, doesn't have 2 hairs, then we can't even demand it of him. Mashkin, and to actually seize it, if he doesn't give it and compel him to give it, Zay Mashkin Ad Sheyavi Shtei Saros is going to do it until he has 2 hairs. So let's see the Taktik Chadatin on this. He says, Shosh Kiluchim Bedover. There are 3 gradations. Kotu Shlevi Shtei Saros, if Kotu doesn't have 2 hairs, ain't Tobin, so we don't demand it of him. Hevi Shtei Saros doesn't do it Tobin, so we demand it of him. Shanasim is Barkim with the Rabbanon. Because he became obligated the Rabbanon, not the Raisa, because the Raisa only came when he's 20. Eva Mashkin, we don't compel him to give. Nasim and Eschim, when he's 20 years old, does Nasim Achiva the Oraisa. But he has now a Torah obligation to give. So at that point, you see, like it says, from 20 years old, you have to give it. Av Mashkin, so we compel him to give. Compel his giving. Okay, so the Gemara says, again, that's your Toveh. I love Shtei Saros, not even Toveh. Mashkin, and to compel, and Mashkin Ad Sheyavo Shtei Saros. They don't compel him to give until he actually has 2 hairs, and then you compel. Actually, sorry. No. That's I just read the Gemara without the pics of the Takin Chadatin. I wonder what is in Vilna. So Vilna actually changed it. Well, Mashkin, Ema Mashkinin, and then it had Achi Shtei Saros, and then it changed Avapishe Shtei Saros. So the Takakatin learns it's Lemashkin Shkim Achi Ben Chov. Same principle. In other words, Mashkin even if he has 2 saras, that's Girsa the Vilna. And going to Darchatin until he's 20, with the same principle. Okay, so not like it says in the article. The article says, Mashkin Shemishay says, no. The Mashkin either a few heavy state sorrows, right? Abi Shemishay is sorrows. According to the Tarchati, Mashkin Asher Ben Chav. So basically said we're not mashkin Kohanim, we don't compel Kohanim to give, even though they're required to give. So it says, Makini must say, even mashkin Kohanim mean they're covered because of a manner of honor. So the Tanakh is very nice here. They're covered the eat time of the mashkinin. And the reason that mashkin is Kohanim is they took Darkei Shalom because of Darkei Shalom. Okay, so in that middle of the Mishkanu. So it's Darkei Shalom, it's also by Yisrael. Kabay Matzilu Kama Mekrema Shetikol Chem Nei Darkei Shalom. Not so we don't do because of Darkei Shalom, we do because of Darkei Shalom. Because Nachrim, even by Nogoyim, now they're a little bit so parent Israel, they're going to get parent in Gittin. They're covered, Matzil Shalom covered Kwam Yosem Israel. But there's an honor, we give more honor to Kwam than we give to Israelim. So there, Imishum B'Kidashto, it's because of Kidashto, they have to hold them sacred. Imishum Shabbos K'Mertzlayim, or because they do that, but it's Korbanos. So therefore, we're not Mamashkin Kwanim because of the special honor. So even though we should, but we go with a soft hand. Okay. Says Amara. I'm not the Haid, Bechule. I said he testified. The Haid Ben Bukhari Bi'Abnesh Kohen who showed the Kohen. Bukhari held that Kohen doesn't have to give. If he gives, it's okay. He doesn't have to. Omar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan Zakai. So the well, actually, then there's a Chule there, so it's going on the later on also. So Rabbi Yochanan Zakai said, no, there's coin, it has to be a give. And how do we know a coin has to give? On Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan Zakai, Zeh Yitnu, Shnei Masor Shvaz Zeh Yitnu. Zeh, the match is 12. Sayim, plus Hey is your base, right? So Shnei Masor Shvaz Yitnu, no exceptions. All 12 Shvatim have to give. That's what Rabbi Yochanan Zakai said. Rabbi Tavi Shem said, came as you call Rabbi Yehuda. This is what said to Rabbi Yehuda who wanted to pater Kohanim from being masters of Shefa. So because what about they had that drosha of Minchas Kohen Kolil Tiyeh, right? So that was actually Yehuda Kohen Ben Bukhari. So that's the case. What do we do with that? It's a time of some sort. So it says Gemara. This is Chachamim would respond to Rabbi Yehuda who testified name Ben Bukhari. Chatas Yachid Mesa ain't Chatas Sibur Mesa. It doesn't work that way. There's a difference between even though they were Yechidim until they get to Sibur, now they have different parameters, and the evidence says Chatas Yachid Chatas an individual of an individual if they're under certain circumstances they has to die. Iskapu by Macheres, all those other cases, it has to die. But Chatas Sibur doesn't die. Chatas Sibur doesn't have to be, starved to death. So if that's the case, that you're going to say that when Kohanim have a portion in something, that means that it has a status of Korban Kohen. So that's the case. A Chatas Sibur should have the status of the Chatas of the Yechidim who made up the Sibur. And therefore should have to die. And it doesn't. So therefore see that once it's given over to the Tzibur, it gets a different parameter. So the same thing, Mincha Seyachi Kreba Kolio, the Mincha of an individual coin is sacrificed whole, and there's no consumption. But Mincha Tzibur Kreba Kolio. Mincha Ben Tzibur is Panim Chadashas. It doesn't have the same status as the person who donated it, who donated the funds for it. And therefore, it's not a problem. If the Kohanim would give the money, it's still a Korban Tzibur, not a Korban Yachid, and therefore the Kohanim would be allowed to eat from it. The Kasha, So now I'm going to ask that well, actually, a second here. What's the question, Rabbi Yehuda? You ask a person something which he doesn't see the point. You just said, I'll bring a rise at the Korban Tzibur format is different than the Korban Yachid format because Chatas Tzibur is a Mesa, even though Chatas Yachid is. Well, She'en Chatas Tzibur Mesa, it's Mishnah and Yuma. Rabbi Yehuda Tamus. It says it does die. So evidently the Chatas Tzibur does retain the status of the Yechidim who were Makdashit, who went through the Makdis Shekel. So it says Gemara, who Mosi Blon, he responds to them in any event. So the Gemara doesn't really answer this question. It's Shein Chatas Tzibur Mesa. Gemara just goes straight on to give the answer Abiyah Gay would give to their question. So the one gives the answer which is very cryptic, and the main difference is learning it. Some people learn the answer is b'nichusa. Who mostly blow zulo need vas yochid. There's not any zulo need vas yochid. There's not any vas yochid. However, they learn that. So we learn it's bitmiyah. Zulo need vas yochid. Isn't this need vas yochid? So and then they have different pshatim. So I think the pshat here is based on famous Rashi, the Mamira Tesayin Tezvav. When Moshe Rabbeinu says that he knows that the Adas Korach has a chelik t'miyat tzibur, right? Yodeni sheish them chelik t'miyat tzibur. Al chelkom lo yikum v'rotzen, but let them not be except b'rotzen. So Rabbi Yehuda is saying that every korban tzibur is like a korban shutfim. Every okay, so shutfim in it, but the individuals retain their chelik. It's just they're part of the larger group. So as he says, who most people he rejects them. He says, no, really, the Kohen giving should be a problem because it retains the chelik in it. The chiddush is ain't a because it's been like Baruch said because he'll give it to the tzibur yafe yafe. But ain't a chanami. If you would give it to tzibur yafe yafe, it would be a problem. And that's why it can't be Mechayev Kohen to give, right? And because then it would still have a character of their individual korban, and their individual korban, it has to be kolil. The minchah would be allowed to be eaten. Who mostly blood lulav nidas yochidu? Says more no. V'ina masivle, but that's why how do they reject Rabbi Yehuda? They say you can't just say tzibur kamishu nidvat tzibur. No, the korban tzibur once it's given to the and what we do is Rashi is a fascinating thing. You know that Rashi is fascinating. Well, you have to learn that Rashi up, and there are many different answers given. But he says once it's given to the tzibur, it doesn't matter. You lose your status as an owner. You don't have you get blended in with everybody else. So therefore, imishim halo area that would not make an issue. The fact that they gave it as individuals, that status falls off. Even if people not much say yofe. Even just people give grudgingly, I want to retain a korban. No, it doesn't matter. Because the korban tzibur, which comes to the money, has a different status than the korban of Yechidim, right? So the Kevshim says tzibur kimi shenivas tzibur. Okay, so I have limited what to say about that, but we'll stop here for today. We're already on Zion and Ralph, and I think that's a shot based on that Rashi and Chumash.